On the morning of March 15th, 44 BC, Julius Caesar woke up and was told not to go to the Senate. His wife, Calpurnia, had dreamed of holding his murdered body. She had wept. She had pleaded. The priests had been consulted. They sacrificed the animals. They read the signs. Every sign was catastrophic. Caesar agreed to stay home. He sent a message that he was unwell. The Senate would wait. Then a friend came to his door, and that changed everything. By midday, Julius Caesar had been stabbed 23 times. Only one wound was lethal. He died at the foot of a statue of his greatest rival. And when his doctor examined the body afterward, in what would become the first forensic autopsy in recorded history, he found something that history has mostly forgotten. Of 23 stab wounds, only one killed him. This is not the story you know. By the early months of 44 BC, Julius Caesar was the most powerful man in the world. He had fought 7 years of war in Gaul. He had invaded Britain. He had crossed the Rubicon, triggering civil war, and won. He had defeated his greatest rival, Pompey, and pursued him to Egypt, only to arrive and find Pompey already dead, his severed head presented to him on the docks of Alexandria. He had survived everything: assassination attempts, naval disasters, military encirclements. He had done what no Roman had done before him, and in February of 44 BC, the Senate made it official. Dictator perpetuo, not for 6 months, the traditional constitutional limit of Roman dictatorship, not for a decade, for life. An appointment without precedent in 500 years of Roman history. The senators who applauded did so with their hands, not their hearts. In the corridors outside the chamber, 60 men were having a different conversation. They called themselves the Liberatores, the Liberators, men who believed Caesar had made himself a king in everything but name, and that killing him was not murder, it was medicine. They had daggers, they had a date, they had 60 men who knew the secret. What they did not have was a plan for what came next. The night before his death, Caesar dined at the home of Marcus Lepidus, his master of horse. The room was warm, the wine was good. As the evening settled into the kind of slow conversation that wine produces, someone raised a question. What is the best way to die? The room offered its thoughts. Quick deaths, noble deaths, deaths in battle. Caesar didn't hesitate. A sudden one, he said. He said it and moved on. Within 18 hours, he would get exactly what he asked for. According to some ancient accounts, one of his companions that evening was Decimus Junius Brutus Albinus, a man who had fought beside Caesar for 20 years. The man everyone has forgotten. Not Marcus Brutus, the name Shakespeare made famous. A different man entirely. Decimus had fought for Caesar since the Gallic Wars, never against him. Caesar trusted him with commands, with campaigns, with his confidence. He was named a secondary beneficiary in Caesar's will. He was, by any measure, one of Caesar's closest allies. He was also the architect of the next morning. While Caesar slept, Decimus's gladiators were already positioned near the theater of Pompey. Not for a performance. Calpurnia woke before dawn. In the dream, she had held Caesar's murdered body. She had seen his blood. She was, by every ancient account, certain of what it meant. She begged him not to go. The household priests were called. They performed the ritual sacrifice. They examined the entrails. What they found should have ended the debate. The omens were, by their reckoning, catastrophically, unambiguously bad. Caesar agreed. He would send his regrets. The word was sent. He was unwell. The Senate would be postponed. Before we go any further, this was actually the second warning. Weeks before the Ides, a soothsayer named Spurina had given Caesar a direct warning. Beware the Ides of March. Caesar had laughed. He laughed at the old man's warning the way powerful men have always laughed at the things they cannot control. Now his wife was at his knees, and the priests were shaking their heads. So that was 2. That is when Decimus arrived. He had heard that Caesar was staying home. The conspirators had sent him because only he could change Caesar's mind. He did not demand. He did not argue. He knew his man. He told Caesar that hundreds of Rome's most eminent men were already assembled and waiting, men Caesar himself had convened. To cancel now would look like weakness. Men would say that Caesar, who had never flinched before an army, had been frightened by a woman's dream. He told Caesar that his fortune was too great for any omen to touch him. He told Caesar his gladiators were stationed nearby. He would be safe. This was the 3rd warning. But Caesar didn't hear it that way. He heard a friend telling him that the great Caesar had nothing to fear. He walked out of his house. Calpurnia watched from the doorway. The route to the theater of Pompey took Caesar through the morning crowds. People pressed close, petitioners, admirers, men with business. And then a man named Artemidorus. He was a teacher of rhetoric, a Greek. And somehow, through some connection to the conspirators' circle, he had learned the names of the men who planned to kill Caesar that morning. He had written them down. He pushed through the crowd and handed the scroll to Caesar. Caesar took it. He tucked it among the other documents he was carrying, meaning to read it later when the session was over. He never read it. He walked into the Senate with his own death warrant in his hands. On the steps, before he went in, Caesar passed the soothsayer Spurina. He called out, perhaps still pleased with himself for having been right. "The Ides of March are come." Spurina looked at him. "Aye," he said, "but they are not yet gone." Caesar went inside. The chamber where the Senate met that day was not the usual Senate house. That building was under renovation, so they met in a hall attached to the theater of Pompey. Pompey, the man Caesar had fought in civil war, the man he had pursued to Egypt, the man whose severed head had been presented to him on the docks of Alexandria. Caesar now sat his chair at the base of Pompey's statue. Among the senators filing in around him, 60 men with daggers concealed in their document cases and the folds of their togas. The session began. A man named Tillius Cimber approached. He had a petition. He wanted Caesar to recall his exiled brother. He was persistent. Caesar waved him off. Cimber pressed closer. Other senators crowded in as if to support the petition. Then Cimber grabbed Caesar's toga by both shoulders. He dragged it down. Caesar cried out, and the ancient sources record this. "Why, this is violence!" Behind him, Casca raised his dagger. The first stab landed below the throat. It was not fatal. This is the part history leaves out. Caesar grabbed Casca's arm. He drove his writing stylus through it. He fought back. He was 55 years old, unarmed, and he fought back. Then the others came. 60 conspirators. Most of them had never used a weapon in their lives. They drove their daggers at a man surrounded by other men driving daggers. In the chaos, they wounded each other. The attack was not a precision execution. It was a frenzied, panicked mob. 23 stab wounds in a press of bodies, from men who couldn't even see clearly what they were hitting. Caesar staggered toward the base of Pompey's statue. He could no longer see. Blood filled his eyes. When he understood what was happening, that there was no fighting out of this, that there were too many, that the end was here, he made one last decision. He reached up and pulled his toga over his face. He drew the lower hem down with his free hand to cover his legs. He did not want to be seen. He wanted to fall with dignity. He fell at the foot of Pompey's statue. The conspirators ran. They had no plan for what came next. Caesar's physician, Antistius, examined the body. He identified 23 stab wounds. He examined each one carefully. His conclusion, presented publicly in the Roman Forum, 22 wounds were non-fatal. One, to the left side of the chest, likely piercing the heart or a major blood vessel, had killed him. The word we use today for crime scene science forensic, derives from the Latin forensis, of the forum. This examination is the earliest recorded forensic autopsy in history, and the etymology of the word itself begins here. In the days that followed, Mark Antony, whom the conspirators had spared, delivered Caesar's funeral oration in the forum. The crowd had come to grieve. They left enraged. Antony was not a subtle man. He displayed Caesar's toga, torn and blood-stained. He read the will in which Caesar had left money to every citizen of Rome. The crowd understood what had been taken from them. The conspirators fled. Brutus and Cassius raised armies in the east. They gathered allies. They tried to do what they had no plan for on the afternoon of March 15th. It did not work. At the Battle of Philippi in 42 BC, they were defeated. Cassius died first, on a false report that Brutus had already fallen. He took his own life on bad information. Brutus lasted long enough to understand that everything was lost. He committed suicide. Every major conspirator was dead within 2 years of the Ides of March. And Caesar's adopted heir, Octavian, became Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. The republic the conspirators murdered to protect had been replaced by exactly the autocracy they feared. Here is what the story is usually told as a great man betrayed by those closest to him. Shakespeare gave it poetry. Hollywood gave it drama. They got the surface right, but they missed the point. Caesar was not undone by Brutus. He was undone by himself. By the time March 15th arrived, Caesar had spent 2 decades being invincible. Gallic armies had not stopped him. Civil war had not stopped him. Rivals, enemies, ocean crossings, military disasters, none of it had stopped him. He had pardoned his enemies, dismissed his bodyguard, and told people it was better to die suddenly than to live in fear. This is what invincibility costs you. It does not make you reckless. It makes you structurally unable to believe in certain outcomes. Caesar was warned by a prophet. He was warned by his wife's nightmare. He was warned by the priests. He was handed a scroll naming the conspirators, and he carried it, unread, into the Senate chamber. He did not ignore the warnings because he was arrogant. He ignored them because he could not compute the world in which they were true. The scroll was found in his effects after his death, still sealed, still unread. And then there is the conspiracy, 60 men, a plan to kill one. No plan for the day after. They did not save the Republic, they exposed it. An institution that can only be preserved by assassination is not an institution anymore. It is a theater of power with an audience that can no longer remember what the performance was supposed to mean. By killing Caesar, the conspirators proved what Caesar's own life had already demonstrated, that the Republic was already dead. The old Republic needed annual magistrates and shared power and collective governance. What it had in the last generation was Sulla, then Pompey, then Caesar, strong men, each more powerful than the last. The conspiracy didn't interrupt that pattern, it accelerated it. The man who won was not in the room. Octavian was 18 years old when Caesar died. He was not in the Senate that day. He was not a military man yet. He was a boy with a famous name and a dead patron. Within 17 years, he was Augustus, more powerful than Caesar had ever been, with a structure of power so carefully built that it would survive for 5 centuries. The conspiracy gave him everything it was designed to prevent. The site where Julius Caesar died is still there. You can visit it. They've built walkways now so tourists can look down at the ruined stone where the Senate met. Stray cats live in the ruins. Rome continues around it at full speed. 23 stab wounds, 1 lethal. A scroll, found unread among his effects. A friend who had dinner with him the night before. The story of Julius Caesar is the story of a man who outran every danger his world had to offer, and was finally caught not by an enemy, but by his own certainty that he couldn't be caught. That is what the conspiracy used, not daggers. That and 4 warnings from a prophet, from a dream, from a priest, and from a piece of paper in his own hand were not enough to reach him.